Merry Christmas, monsters! Thanks for tuning in to MurderMurder News, the true crime cult for the latest breaking news, murdery memes, TV reviews, podcast recommendations, and all things spooky. We're so excited you've decided to spend the holiday with us at our true crime cult. Let's sit around the tree, pet some baby goats, pour yourself a little too much wine or eggnog, and let's share some stories of ghosts of Christmas crimes past. I'm television's Aurora Katie.
And I'm your online murder friend, Angelina. Cults are no fun alone, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell all of your true crime friends to join the commune at MurderMurder.news. This is the Week in True Crime Christmas special.
Murder News.
67-year-old Michelle O'Dowd met 40-year-old Patty White when Patty began dating Michelle's nephew. Michelle, or Mickey O as she was known to close friends and family, was renowned for being an especially kind and compassionate person who loved Christmas and loved people even more. She welcomed Patty as part of the family, even helping her to get back on her feet when she eventually split from her boyfriend, Michelle's nephew. She let Patty stay rent-free in her home and even hired her for odd jobs when she needed money. Michelle trusted Patty with sensitive details, like the entry code to the gated community where she lived in Florida, and the PIN code to her debit card when she sent her to run errands. Michelle never expected that Patty would betray her. She just did what came naturally to her and opened her home to a friend in need. Well, in 2013, after Patty had left Michelle's home to live with some relatives in South Carolina, she made an unexpected holiday trip back to see Michelle in Florida. Patty drove down to Florida that Christmas, intending to rob Michelle. She used the key code to get into the community and stole Michelle's debit and credit cards, to which she knew the PIN number, and stole $500 from each card. In the process of robbing Michelle's home, Patty must have met with some confrontation because she wound up brutally beating and ultimately strangling her friend to death. She hid the body under Michelle's Christmas tree beneath a sky-high pile of beautifully decorated gifts intended for her nieces and nephews and grandchildren. She ransacked the house, tipping over chairs and tables, and tried to hide her face from security cameras out front. But as a familiar family friend, everyone recognized the assailant caught on video as Patty White. Michelle's twin brother, Phil Axt, discovered his sister's body when he stopped by to check on her after she didn't show up for work at his business. This was her favorite time of year, Act said, explaining that her Christmas spirit was too big for just one household, and she also took care of decorating his business for the holidays. "How can you be so sick," he implored, to bury the victim with children's gifts. After the murder, Patty drove to her parents' place in York, South Carolina, where she was apprehended by authorities and confessed to her crimes. Patty White was sentenced to 45 years in prison.
The story I want to share today has always haunted me because, as some of you may know, I've always had a big fascination with family annihilators. One of my earliest true crime memories was hearing the story of John List, who murdered his entire family in 1971. I first heard the story in 1989 when the story aired on one of my favorite TV shows, Unsolved Mysteries, which the show ultimately led to John being identified and arrested for the murder he had committed 18 years prior. I remember watching the show as a kid, being very freaked out about the idea of the supposedly normal, good father suddenly turning and killing his whole family. It seriously made me question my father's intentions. Well, the Christmas murders of the Lawson family pretty much ensured I would never trust men ever again. This story takes place on Christmas Day, 1929. The Lawsons were tobacco farmers living in Stokes County, North Carolina. They were a family of 9, with the father, Charlie, age 43, Fanny, the mom, age 37, 17-year-old Marie, 16-year-old Arthur, 12-year-old Carrie, 7-year-old Maybelle, 4-year-old James, 2-year-old Raymond, and a baby, Mary Lou. The family had been up and about on Christmas morning, tending to the farm, baking a holiday cake, and getting ready for the annual tradition of rabbit hunting. 16-year-old Arthur had been sent into town to buy shotgun shells to go hunting with his dad. It's unknown if the father, Charlie, had sent his son away intentionally, considering what he had planned. What happened next is that Charlie went out to the tobacco barn where his 2 daughters, 12-year-old Carrie and 7-year-old Maybelle, were likely doing chores. While in the barn, Charlie shot and bludgeoned his 2 daughters. The sound of the shotguns did not alert the rest of the family or the neighbors at first because hunting was a big family tradition for farmers in this area on Christmas Day. After killing 2 of his daughters, Charlie shot his wife, who was sitting on the porch of their house. It's possible his other children saw this happen, but at the very least they heard the gunshot and tried to get away and hide. Charlie next found 17-year-old Marie, who had just finished baking a cake in the kitchen, and shot her. The 2 little boys, 4-year-old James and 2-year-old Raymond, were hiding, but Charlie found them and shot them as well. Lastly, he found baby Mary Lou and bludgeoned her to death. He then positioned all of their heads with pillows or rocks and crossed their arms in a funeral position. Charlie ran off into the woods as neighbors and the police began to arrive at the house. Charlie paced around and began to write 2 notes, one that said, "Nobody to blame but," and the other that said, "Troubles can cause." He then shot himself in the woods. So what caused Charlie to snap? There are theories that Charlie had planned his family's murder in advance. A little while before Christmas, he took his family into town to buy new clothes and paid for a family portrait to be taken. This would have been pretty expensive and extravagant for a farmer in 1929, so there's speculation that he did this as sort of a memorial for his family for what he planned to do. There are also reports that Charlie had sustained a head injury several months prior, and as true crime enthusiasts know, head injuries are common in criminals in general. We're including a link to an awesome article written by MMN writer and clinical neuropsychologist Fanny Thibault-Daguerre about the connection with brain injuries and serial killers. Supposedly, a few friends and family members had also speculated that Charlie was raping his 17-year-old daughter Marie and that she was pregnant, though there didn't seem to be any evidence of pregnancy reported by the investigation. Admittedly, though, I have no idea what sort of investigation would have been performed in 1929, so I'm not sure if they would have been looking for that. And that's the story of the brutal Lawson family Christmas murders. I'm including my sources in the details below, which include Wikipedia, Murderpedia, and a story in Medium.
Santa is kind of known as being the hero of Christmas, but keeping it in the spirit of Christmas crimes, we want to do a countdown of 5 times Santa was a little less of a hero and a little more of a Hail Satan with our Bad Santa countdown. We'd like to thank MurderMurder News writer Elena Holman for researching and writing this countdown.
Coming in at number 5. In late November 2005, an East London man was stabbed to death in his bed by an intruder dressed in Santa gear. Sikander Shaheen, 25, was struck repeatedly by the killer, who appeared to have gained entry to Shaheen's shared house in Green Grove Road without any sign of forced entry or struggle. According to investigators, Shaheen was a private, hardworking religious man and appeared to have nothing in his lifestyle that would serve as a motive for the killing. Shaheen was rushed to the hospital after neighbors called the police to his house in Layton the morning after the attack. Unfortunately, Shaheen died in the hospital, and police were left with no leads on their Santa suspect. Near the crime scene, the marauding Kris Kringle was left behind with a red and white hat and an attached full white beard. Although the Santa was allegedly forensically examined 15 years ago, the police are still on the hunt for this sinister Santa.
In 2017, Bad Santa Claus number 4 wreaked havoc on his friends during a Halloween party he was hosting. During the rambunctious event, a highly intoxicated Randall Gaston Jones was allegedly told by his peeved partygoers to go to bed and/or calm down. Instead, Jones returned from his room with a gun and pointed it at the crowd. Jones, 32, fired first at the floor and successfully scattered most of his guests. However, Michael McCloskey attempted to intervene and was shot several times before succumbing to his wounds some hours later. 3 other guests were shot, but all of them survived, including one that remained in critical condition for a few days after the incident. Jones was arrested and charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, as well as murder. Now that's one wicked Halloween Christmas crossover, huh?
Yeah, it is. On Christmas Day 2011, Aziz Yazban Panda, also known as Bad Santa number 3, dressed as Santa Claus and gathered with his extended family in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburb of Grapevine. While everyone was opening presents, Yazdan Pana fatally shot his estranged wife, their 2 teenage children, and 3 other relatives before turning the gun on himself. Grapevine police believe that Yazdan Pana called 911 before he shot himself. The recording of the 911 call revealed someone saying, "Help, help," and then, "I am shooting people." Police said these chilling words were incomprehensible when the dispatcher listened to them on Christmas Day, but eventually became audible when the investigators used a different software system. It remains unclear why Yazdan Panda would leave such a warning, especially because he had attempted to stage the scene and frame his brother-in-law before killing himself. The sadistic Santa killed his estranged wife of 24 years, Fatima Ramadi, their 19-year-old daughter Nona, and 14-year-old son Ali. Yazdan Panda also murdered his wife's sister, Zore Ramati, her husband, Mohammed Hassin Zerai, and their daughter, Sarah. Investigators believe that Yazdan Panda was severely down on his luck at the time of the Christmas massacre. This Santa, a former real estate professional, had lost his job and was struggling financially for quite some time. Moreover, he and his wife were headed towards a divorce. Why exactly did Yazdan Panda choose to murder his 6 family members whilst dressed as Father Christmas? We may never know.
Bad Santa number 2 is a vintage Santa dating all the way back to December 23, 1927. A gun-toting Santa Claus and his 3 bandits robbed the First National Bank of Cisco, Texas, before setting off on a wild, week-long chase with the police. Although the costume was donned by a decidedly young and lanky-looking man, the image of the beloved Christmas hero allowed this Santa to distract the bank patrons while his bandits filed into the building undetected. While Santa was raiding the bank safe and stuffing an Idaho potato sack with $12,200 in cash and $150,000 in securities, or when adjusted for inflation, about $182,570 in cash and $2,244,724 in securities. His bandits were holding down the scene and making sure no one escaped. Amazingly, one woman managed to sneak past the commotion, slip out of the bank's back door, and alert the Cisco police of Santa and his bad little helpers. When the police arrived, the bank robbers used the bank employees as human shields to evade any bullets that came at them while they escaped through the alleyway. By the time the 4 men reached their getaway vehicle, approximately 200 shots had been fired. In the aftermath, 2 officers lay dying and 6 bystanders had sustained wounds of varying severity. The unruly gang also succeeded in taking 10-year-old Emma Mae Robinson and 12-year-old Laverne Comer hostage, but had to leave one injured bandit behind to die. Santa, who was eventually revealed to be 26-year-old Marshall Ratcliffe, drove madly through thick fields of bushes, cactus, and brush while police followed him in hot pursuit. Over the course of the chase, the 3 remaining robbers accumulated several hostages and injuries, but were eventually captured by police exactly 1 week after the bank robbery. Ratcliffe was sentenced to 99 years in prison, but attempted to plead insanity and was moved from the penitentiary to the county jail in Eastland, Texas. While in the throes of his insanity shtick, Ratcliffe tried to escape and ended up killing a jailer. Local Texans grew angry, broke Ratcliffe out of jail, and hung him themselves. In the end, the Santa-led bank robbery cost 6 people their lives, including 3 of the 4 robbers.
And for our absolute worst Bad Santa, we give you Bruce Jeffrey Pardo. On Christmas Eve 2008, Bruce knocked on the door of his former in-laws' home while dressed in a Santa suit and holding a gift-wrap package. When an 8-year-old girl answered the door, Pardo blasted her with a semi-automatic handgun. Then the unhinged Santa entered the Covina, Los Angeles home and began indiscriminately firing through the crowd of festive partygoers. In a 911 call, the young girl's mother can be heard screaming, "I need someone to come over and help my daughter," before identifying the shooter as Bruce Pardo. When Pardo finally unwrapped the Christmas gift that he had been holding, he revealed a homemade flamethrower. With that, Santa burned the house to the ground and fled the scene with severe burns that melted his red suit into his flesh. Pardo drove 40 miles to Sylmar, parked his rental car a block from his brother's house, and used his shredded suit to booby-trap the inside of the vehicle. If police attempted to move the suit, tripwires would ignite a fire and subsequently explode 200 rounds of ammunition. As a means of getting away, Pardo had also strapped $17,000 in cash to his body and appeared to have a flight booked to Canada. However, before he could board any plane to freedom, the murderous Santa killed himself with a single gunshot to the head. Investigators believe that Pardo's killing spree was spurred by a particularly contentious divorce that had come to a head just 1 week prior. According to divorce records, Pardo's split from his ex-wife, Sylvia, had intensified on December 18th after Sylvia was granted a cash settlement and Pardo's dog, Saki. Pardo knew that Sylvia would be attending her parents' annual holiday party on December 24th, but it remains unknown just how long he had been planning the attack. According to Pardo's friend, Steve Irwin, I'm pretty sure that's not the Steve Irwin, but I'm not sure. The vicious Santa had called him the week before leading up to the massacre and made plans to visit him for 2 weeks starting on Christmas Day. Irwin said that Pardo had a flight to Moline, Illinois, and would drive from there to Irwin's home in Iowa. Of course, Pardo never showed up. Given his alleged plane ticket to Canada, police had questioned whether Pardo had ever planned to meet up with Irwin in the first place. In total, Pardo killed 9 people. In addition to shooting Sylvia, Pardo also murdered her parents, 2 of her brothers and their wives, a sister and a nephew.
Thanks so much for spending your Christmas with MurderMurder News. We hope the rest of your holiday is safe and murder-free. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below, give us a thumbs up, and tell all of your true crime friends.
Help support MurderMurder News by signing up for our commune at MurderMurder.news, and your $5 a month sponsorship helps us keep the true crime lights on. It helps us produce our weekly show and help support our amazing writers that keep you up to date with the latest breaking news every day on MurderMurder.news. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. See you next week!